Hey guys, it's Cece, and today I am going to be doing for you the How I Read tag. This tag was created by Enya's Corner, I believe. Unfortunately, it looks like the original video has been taken down, so I will still leave it linked below, but it doesn't seem to exist anymore. I wasn't tagged to do this really at all, but it sounded like a really fun tag, and so I thought I'd do it. So let's just jump into the questions about how I personally read. Question number one is, how do you find out about new books you want to read? This answer is a long answer, in that I find books to read in so many different ways. In the past 8 months, less than 8 months, in the past like 8 months or so, booktube a lot of the time is how I find new books. I love watching videos and hearing people get excited about books, and I will just look them up and add them right there. That's how I find most of them now, but I also look at a ton of Goodreads lists, especially for anticipated releases. That's how I make my anticipated releases for the coming year. But if I'm looking for specific genres of books, I still go to lists on Goodreads. I also go to suggested books when I look up books that I really love on Goodreads. That's another way. I get recommendations from friends, family members, rec lists on Tumblr. Sometimes I just go browsing in libraries and bookstores, and the Goodreads app has a scanner, and if I think I see a book that I really like, just scan it right in, and at the end of my visit, I click Add All to my TBR shelf, which is a terrible habit to get into. Don't do that. You'll have a TBR that's like forever long, but that's what I do. So there are a lot of different ways. Question number two is, how did you get into reading? And it's so funny because I have mentioned this recently in multiple videos. I mentioned it in my Doctor Who Companions tag, where I was talking about books that started me reading, and I also mentioned it a ton in my Top 5 Wednesday Books I'm Most Thankful For video. But yeah, how I got into reading is that I was raised by readers. That is the most important thing to note. I've mentioned before that my grandmother read to me from Nancy Drew a lot of the time, which is what got me to love mysteries and series, and also, I read a ton of books with my mom. She read to me a ton when I was a kid. I talked about this a lot more in my Top 5 Wednesday video, but we read so much together when I was younger, and that is really what inspired me most to want to break out into reading on my own when I got older. And the series that really inspired me to do that was a series of Unfortunate Events, which I read when I was 8 or 9, and that is really what got me started in looking for my own books and finding my own series and begging my mom to spend way too much money on books. Question number three is, how has your taste in books progressed as you've gotten older? My main answer for it is that I've gotten more accepting of other book genres. When I was younger, I was a very stubborn child, and I would read something and I would say, this is the only thing I like. I would never expand beyond this. I'll never read these books. And I think as I've gotten older, I've really just kind of tuned that out of myself, and now I'm really open to most things. When I was younger, I said I would never read classic books, and I especially would never read anything by Jane Austen, but Pride and Prejudice is now a book that I absolutely love, and I've read a few other books by Jane Austen. I would just get really stubborn, and I would refuse to read certain things, and I think that I've just gotten better about that. Also, probably just that my taste in books has gotten slightly older. I know I still read a lot of YA, but now I read some adult as well, so that too. Question 4 is, how often do you buy books? Scary question, this one. Scary question. So, I'm kind of sporadic in buying books. I'm really, really bad about it. When I am at school, what I tend to do is I go out and buy a bunch of books, and then I don't buy new ones until I'm like about finished with those books, but that's really just to do with shelf space more than anything else. When I am at home, I like to do like one shopping trip in a month. I allow myself, when my TBR shelf is low enough, then I go out and I do another big book haul. That's probably mostly what I do, but I'm unable to resist if I see a secondhand shop or a sale. Either of those things, and everything I just told you is out the window, and all of a sudden my TBR shelf is overflowing, and I question my life, and I tell myself I'm not allowed to buy books until it's all reasonable again. Yeah. I've been pretty good about book buying here. Pretty good. You can see those are the books that those are the books that I haven't read yet. So I've purchased all those, and then I have another pile on the floor of books that I have read. So it's not terrible. They're about the same size. It could be better. It could be worse. Question 5 is, how did you get into booktubing? So I'm fairly new to booktubing. I started near the end of May, just earlier this year, and what really started it, I'd played with it in the past, I'd liked the idea of it, and actually what got me started on YouTube was that I posted a couple of songs that were book related. I would write songs on my guitar or my ukulele and I would post them, and those are my first videos on this channel. If you go back, I believe the first video I ever posted is a cover of Complicated by Avril Lavigne, but it's a Harry Potter version of that song. That's probably the first video I ever posted on here. That was a couple of years ago, but what actually got me started booktubing was this last spring semester. We were in a class, we were in an English class, and our professor put a video up on the projector, and it was a booktuber. I don't even remember who. It was a pretty small video, but it was just talking about the difference, I believe, between high fantasy books and other types of fantasy books. So that was the video, and as soon as it was over, Janelle leaned over to me and went, "You know, you could do that." And I was like, I thought maybe I could, but I don't know. And then I thought about it more and more. I watched a lot of BookTube all at once because I really hadn't watched it before. I'm pretty sure, I think Peru's Project was the first person I ever watched, and I completely fell in love with the idea, and as soon as I got home from school for the year, I went out and got what I needed to film, and I just started filming, and I'm really enjoying it. So thank you for having me here on BookTube. Question 6 is, how do you react when you don't like the end of the book? Rage. Pure rage. This is only worse if I didn't like the entire book. But if I didn't like the end of the book, what happens is that I find someone and I complain to them in vague detail about why the end of the book was terrible. And then as the days go forward, I give them more and more detail until I sit them down and go, listen. And then I tell them the whole plot from start to finish, getting more and more angry. And then at the end, I explain the ending. And until they understand my rage, I will go into more and more detail until they fully understand how much anger I feel, and they're like, yes, that's terrible, we get it. Then I'm okay. And then every now and then someone will bring up the book and I'll just be like, ugh. Question 7 is, how often do you take a sneaky look at the final page? Never. I've never done it, and I never will. That would be so upsetting to me. In fact, I have a thing where my eyes will skip. If they see like the end of a chapter, they'll skip down to the end of that chapter, and so most times I will physically cover the bottom of the chapter with my arms while I'm reading the previous page because I refuse to allow myself to spoil myself, and only I can stop it. So I would never look at the last page because that is something I can control myself on. And question 8 is, how many people are you gonna tag and who are they? I'm not gonna tag anybody. If you want to do this tag, consider yourselves tagged. This is a lot of fun, but I'm not gonna tag anybody. Alright guys, thanks for watching the How I Read tag. I really enjoyed doing this one. I don't know how many people are super interested in how I read, but if you were, now you know. Let me know down below what book really got you into reading in the first place, what got you excited about reading. I'm so excited to read those. I love hearing how people got started reading. And of course, thank you for watching, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!